Happy Sunday, everybody. Officially made it to another week of the NFL season. It is week 8 and another episode of Facemask Fantasy, another segment of Start, Sit, Help. Going through any last minute thoughts you might have, if anybody is wanting to rehash anything that we talked about last night, or anybody that wants to bring in anything new, we can, of course, go over that before the week 8 slate. So you guys got me for about an hour or so, maybe a bit longer. We can hash over anything that you might be grappling with prior to the beginning of NFL games today. Let me just pull up Underdog Fantasy. Zach Moss plans to play today, but the fact that he did pick up a late injury is, he might not be. He's probably going to have his role scaled back, which was going to happen naturally anyway with the Colts ultimately coming to terms with Jonathan Taylor. You would think Taylor continues to separate himself today, especially so given Moss being on the injury report. Trevor Lawrence expected to play. That was never a concern. Gerald Everett is a game-time decision Sunday night against the Bears, so could be even more looks for Austin Eckler and Keenan Allen. Josh Palmer's a game-time decision tonight. So again, I know a lot of people there were several people that brought Palmer up in start-sit questions yesterday. Just if you have a pivot in either Sunday night or Monday night, just make sure to have that ready to go and be keeping tabs on Palmer's status. If you don't have a viable pivot off of Josh Palmer, either on Sunday night or Monday night, then you might want to pivot to whoever the next best option is who's playing earlier, who you know definitively is going to play. Probably makes sense to err on the side of caution there. Jerome Ford's going to undergo a pregame workout. That's probably happening as we speak. We should be getting inactives and final injury reports for teams in the next half hour or so. Probably within, honestly, the next 15 to 20 minutes, we'll start seeing inactives roll in. So we'll see if Jerome Ford is able to give it a go. Either way, Kareem Hunt is probably a strong play today. You figure he sees the most work, even if Ford is able to gut it out. He wasn't expected to be able to play this week, at least at the beginning of the week. So it was already looking like a good Kareem Hunt week. Ford potentially being available is a bit of a surprise, but I would still fire Kareem Hunt up with a decent amount of confidence. Knowing that Jerome Ford will be gutting it out through that ankle injury that was expected to sideline him for at least 1 week. And I think originally people were thinking it would be a couple of weeks. So great for Jerome Ford that he seemingly is much closer to playing than previously anticipated, but I would still be firing Kareem Hunt up with some decent confidence as a flex play this week. So let's go ahead and get into it. Members will get the first priority. Anybody who's feeling kind enough to offer a super will also jump the line for questions, and then I'll get to everybody else as I see questions flow into the chat. Greg, Rojo, good to see you guys. Let's get these dubs today. What do you say? What is the weather report for East Rutherford? It's like a light rain. I'm not too worried. If it's a heavier rain, that's less enticing. Just go ahead and look this up really quick. While I'm looking that up, I mean, if you want to pivot to Downs, I guess that is fine. Do I prefer Downs over London? Is the real question, I guess. Again, London's on the road against the Titans. It's a really good matchup for London. It's just how much do you trust Desmond Ridder on the road? It's been a struggle. At least Downs doesn't have any elements. He'll be playing in a dome. I'm just taking a look at the East Rutherford weather. Okay. There's rain in the forecast. 10-mile-per-hour winds. That's not terrible. Okay. It looks like, Greg, it looks like, I mean, about 60% chance of rain at kickoff, but it looks like it's about to subside after kickoff. It looks like the storm might move out of the area as the game moves on. So I would continue to fire up Wilson. I would just fire up Wilson. I think you're okay with just going with Wilson. Rain doesn't look like it's going to be too big of an issue. And the bigger thing is probably the wind. Only 10-mile-per-hour winds. That's normal. That's not anything to be worried about. I think I would probably just go Wilson and hope for the best. What's going on, Crumbly Heads? Good to see you, man. Let's see. Rojo, between Pierce, Javonte, Hopkins, or Dell. Hopkins isn't in the conversation for me. Having to catch passes from Will Levis is gross. Between Pierce and Javonte, Pierce has a great matchup. Javonte has a slightly tougher matchup, but in the snow, he should get a lot of work. Both figure to be in committees. I give the slight nod to Javonte Williams just because I think he is the better player. That obviously doesn't always translate to who has the better day any given Sunday. I would say they're neck and neck. They're both in the mid to low end RB2 range right now. But Javonte has been looking better and stronger over the past couple of weeks. As you know, it looks like he's rounding into form, continuing to move away from the big knee injury that he suffered last year. Pierce is in a beautiful matchup against the Panthers, but the coaching staff has been indicating that Devin Singletary is going to get more involved. They like Devin Singletary and what he can do in that specific scheme. They don't like for what the offensive coordinator likes to run. They don't love Pierce's fit in that offense, but they're going to continue to go with him. Just maybe not as a bell cow. Because there are questions about Pierce and because it feels like Javonte is coming on a little bit stronger, I would give the slight nod to Javonte. And in the snow, he should get, I would think he gets 15 carries and should be in line for at least a couple of dump-off opportunities. I'll go Javonte. Yes, and yeah, appreciate the encouragement, Rojo. If you do like what you see, if you are enjoying coming to the streams and hanging out, I do just ask that you like the stream. That helps for algorithm purposes. So appreciate that, Rojo. Calvin Ridley or Tyler Boyd. I mean, Higgins and Chase are, well, Higgins is back. Chase wasn't hurt, but Higgins is back. He's had a week off to heal the rib injury. I can't go Boyd here. I got to go Ridley. It's a good matchup for Ridley. I know there's rain in Pittsburgh today. I don't think it's that bad. I think it's a lot like East Rutherford. It's not terribly heavy rain. I'm not too concerned about the elements there. And it's a good matchup by the numbers. The Steelers are giving up a lot of points to outside wide receivers. That's Ridley for the Jaguars. Weather.com takes so long to load up. Yeah, so 75% chance of rain in Pittsburgh at kickoff, but it's moving out of the system, or it's moving out of the area. The storm is moving out of the area as the game progresses. It doesn't look like it's going to be raining all day. or all during the game in Pittsburgh. So I'm not worried about that. I'd fire up Ridley. I'd fire up Ridley. All right. Let's go back to the top. Would I 14 team half PPR trade Ridley for Breece Hall? Ridley's a last round keeper, whereas Breece Hall is a first round keeper. I mean, without knowing what your situation is, like, are you contending this year? Are you competing this year? Are you going for it, and therefore you want to grab Breece and you could use some running back help? Obviously, Ridley is in theory the much better value, being a last round keeper, but it depends on your situation. If you're acquiring Breece for Ridley straight up this year, I'd rather have Breece, but I would want to, does this catapult you to as one of the top 2 or 3 teams in the league if you make that move? How badly do you need running back help? There's kind of layers to questions like this, So it depends on your specific situation. But for the purposes of this year, just this year, and in a keeper league, I'm always trying to contend. I'm always going for it. It's not like a dynasty league. I'd rather have Breece over Ridley with, relatively definitively. I'd go I guess I'd go Metcalf, Crumbly Heads. I do like Hollywood's revenge game opportunity today against the Ravens, but Metcalf is just the better player, and he's back after a week missed due to injury, so I would just fire up Metcalf. I like Hollywood's spot today. But I would go Metcalf. Flowers or Nico. I think we talked through this yesterday. I would go Flowers. I have that same exact situation myself in a league. I'm going Flowers in a beautiful matchup against Arizona. Arizona's getting scorched by opposing wide receivers. So I'll take that. I'll take Flowers. And I give the slight nod to Goddard over Laporta. Goddard has been a little bit better than Laporta over the past few weeks. He didn't have a great game against Washington when the Eagles played the Commanders in week 4. But since that game, the Commanders have been giving up a lot of production to opposing tight ends. So I'll ride that wave. I'll go Goddard. Oh, yeah. Flowers and Goddard. Downs or Hollywood? I would go Hollywood slightly over Downs. I do want to still give Hollywood his flowers as being the more accomplished and more proven player. And it's a revenge game for him against the Ravens. The Ravens traded him to the Cardinals. This is his first matchup with the Ravens since being traded. I want to chase that. I want to chase that with Marquise Brown. And they're at home, so should be a decent spot for him. Rojo, I would go, I guess, Spears is playing the Falcons, tough matchup. Freeman's playing the Cowboys, tough matchup. Freeman got in there a little bit, right? He did mix in last week. I don't think he exactly set the world on fire, but he did decently with the touches that he got. I just like Spears. If you're looking for a random dart throw, I just like Spears. However, that offense might be severely capped with either Will Levis or Malik Willis. I don't know if they're going to just play Will Levis or if they're going to rotate Malik Willis in. Meanwhile, Freeman had 12 carries for 66 yards. I like Spears as just a better talent, so that's probably where I would go. I'd probably just fire up Spears and hope for the best. Like, you're probably thinking the Titans might run the ball like 40 times today, which means that Spears is going to get 10 touches, maybe 10 to 12 if he catches a couple of dump offs. I got to imagine the game plan for the Titans revolves around the running backs today. I got to think Spears gets in there, so he's probably the guy I would take a dart throw on. Yeah, he's going to be. I'm big on Spears' talent as well. I know you've been as well, Rojo. Chase it, follow it. I would go Spears. Let's see. I got your question. I would go Hollywood over Downs in a revenge game. Yup. Yes. Ravens are a good defense, but there should be enough volume there for Hollywood. There should be enough opportunities there for him to come through. If you're worried about the matchup and if Downs is your gut feeling, then play Downs. Like I always tell people, go with your gut. If your gut is not agreeing with what I'm saying, go with your gut. It's your team. Play the guy that you want to play. I would go Hollywood in the revenge game. Foreman or Henderson this Sunday. So Henderson, tough matchup against the Cowboys. Foreman, slightly better matchup against the Chargers. However, I wouldn't be surprised if the Bears were trailing in this game tonight. This is a good offense that they're playing in the Los Angeles Chargers, who shouldn't have an issue scoring against the Chicago Bears. And on the road, this could be a tough spot for the Bears running backs. I think there's a little bit more built-in risk with Foreman. The more I think about it, there's a little bit more built-in risk with Foreman, especially with Roschon being back. As for Henderson, Royce Freeman got 12 carries of his own. So they're both in committees. It's a coin flip. I guess Henderson has a little bit less risk than Foreman, but Foreman is coming off a really strong performance last week, so he might get first crack at starting duties tonight. I don't know if they're going to automatically fire Roschon back up as the starter. That was the case prior to Roschon's injury. Roschon was ahead of Foreman on the depth chart, whereas Henderson is ahead of Freeman on the depth chart. So because there's a little bit more built-in risk, I would probably just go Henderson and hope for the best. Probably go Henderson and hope for the best. Pierce, Akers, or Reynolds. I mean, I would probably just go. It's full PPR. I can't trust Akers yet, even though he had a decent showing on Monday night, and I'm certainly not trusting Craig Reynolds. I think you just got to go Pierce in a great matchup and hope for the best. The Texans coaches have been talking like this is going to be a committee. They like Devin Singletary. They like his fit in what they want to do on offense, but Pierce should still be the starter. And it's as good a matchup as you can ask for this season. You want to fire your running backs up against the Carolina Panthers. Pierce, just play Pierce. Hope he can just find his way into the end zone, just fall into the end zone at some point. I would go Pierce. Welcome back, Blue. Any props? So I don't work with this guy. I don't have any affiliation with him other than I follow him on Twitter. His name is Austin, at Austin Props. He's pretty good. He's pretty accurate. He doesn't always hit, but neither does nobody hits 100% of the time. But he is pretty consistent. Some of the props that he's got posted today, I just tail him. Full disclosure, these are not my calls. These are not my props. At Austin Props, if you're on Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it. If you don't follow him and you want to, he is one of the guys that I like for random player pick'ems. Brees Hall rushing yards over 70.5. Olave 57.5 receiving yards over. Christian Kirk, 4.5 receptions over. That feels like a layup. And then Jalen Hurts, 37.5 rushing yards under. He actually has under for Jalen Hurts rushing yardage this week. Curious to see what his thought or what his diagnosis on that. Oh, because Hurts has the knee injury. Hurts is dealing with a knee injury, so he's banged up a little bit, had to put a brace on the knee. So he's probably, I guess he's anticipating that Hurts might not run as much as he normally does. So, he's the guy that I like to follow for player props. If you are on Twitter or X, you can follow him. Again, one more time, at Austin Props. He's the guy that I like to follow for that stuff. Full PPR, Aaron Jones, Madison, or Darrell Henderson. I love Aaron Jones. I've been an Aaron Jones guy for years and years. He hasn't been right since week 1. Madison gets the Packers, who are not good at stopping the run. I would probably play Madison. I would probably play Madison and hope for the best. It's a good matchup against the Packers. We're getting a couple of inactives and actives rolling in. Patrick Mahomes is apparently dealing with an illness, but he will play. Interesting. Snow flu game incoming for Mahomes. Jordan Davis is active today for the Philadelphia Eagles. So that's probably going to make things a little bit tougher for Brian Robinson. Just throwing out some random tidbits. I would go Madison over Jones and over Henderson. It's a great matchup against the Packers. They're not very good at stopping the run. Good morning to you too, Daniel. You have Lawrence, but you're thinking about pivoting off of him because of the injury. I wouldn't. For those guys, Badgett, Stafford, Pickett, Tyrod, Jimmy G, I would not. I would not. I'm going back to the well with Trevor Lawrence. I know that it's another road game for him. Pittsburgh's defense is pretty decent on paper, and they're at home. They play better at home, and it's raining in Pittsburgh, although it's not expected to last. I can't start any one of those guys that you named over Trevor Lawrence. He is the best. Even if he is a little banged up, he's been removed from the injury report just a short while ago. I'm not starting Stafford against the Cowboys over him. I'm not starting Badgett over him. Desmond Ridder, forget it. Pickett, no. I got to play Lawrence. I know Pickett's at home, so maybe he'll play a little bit better than he usually does. I'm not pivoting off of Trevor Lawrence just because he was questionable with a knee injury. He practiced on a limit. He practiced all week. It was a limited fashion, but he got practice sessions in Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. I'm not pivoting off of Trevor Lawrence. I'm not pivoting off of Trevor Lawrence. Not for Stafford, not for Badgett, not for Pickett, not for any of those guys. I'm playing Trevor Lawrence. I'm not moving off of him just because he was on the injury report with a knee injury. He was practicing in full, or not in full. He was practicing on a limited basis all week. Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. He got limited sessions in. I'm not worried about Trevor Lawrence. He's had 10 days rest. He played on Thursday night in week 7. Speak of the devil, Sunday countdown just went to him warming up. Yeah, he does have the brace. There is the knee brace. But remember, even with the knee brace on a short week last week, he ran for 65 yards. I mean, we don't necessarily expect him to duplicate those numbers, but I'm firing up Lawrence. I'm not pivoting off of Lawrence. Not for Stafford, Pickett, Tyrod, Jimmy G. No, not for any of those guys. Play your stud. Lawrence is a stud. It's been a little bit like there's been a bit of shortcomings with him this year, but you're firing up Lawrence. You're firing up Lawrence. Let's see. Burrow or Stroud? Burrow against the 49ers on the road. Stroud against the Panthers, also on the road. Yeah, they're neck and neck, I would say. Burrow is a question mark because we don't know how much did the bye week help him get right with the calf injury. Oh, Luke Musgrave is active. Good for Luke Musgrave. That's nice to see. He's a tough person to trust today, but at least he's playing. At least he's playing. If you want to play safe and go Stroud, that's fine. Burrow is obviously the much more accomplished quarterback so far. I would think that the bye week was a good time for him to get the calf injury right. The other question is, how healthy is T. Higgins with the rib injury? Like, how was the bye week enough time for these guys to get right from their injuries? We hope so. We don't know for sure. It is a tougher matchup against the 49ers. Meanwhile, Stroud gets the Panthers on the road. They're both on the road, and it's a great matchup. There's nothing scary about the Panthers defense in any way, shape, or form. And Stroud himself has looked really good. It's a really good matchup for Stroud. If you prefer the matchup, then Stroud. If you're somebody who likes to roll with the better player, the more accomplished player, that would be Burrow. But if you've got concerns about the injury or how healthy he is even after the bye week, then you can just go Stroud. That's fine. It's fine to go Stroud. Crumbly Heads, you're going Downs over Hollywood. That's fine. I like Hollywood today. I do. I like him in this spot against the Ravens, his old team. I think he's going to do just fine. But hey, it's personal preference. Denver does not steal one today. That's not happening. Mahomes would have to be, I don't know. Mahomes would have to be pretty damn sick for it to even be potentially close. Broncos are at home. The snow might neutralize things a little bit, but nah. Can't go out on that limb. You need a flex out of Waddle, Stevenson, Aaron Jones, or Kirk. Damn, man. There's a lot of really good players. Along with Terry and Deontay. That's really good players. Man, I like the spot that Kirk is in today. Waddle is the better player. I might ride the hot hand and go with Christian Kirk here. I might ride the hot hand and go with Kirk. Yes, it's a tougher matchup against the Steelers, but once again, Zay Jones is inactive. Games that Zay Jones is out, Kirk has blossomed. He's played very well without Zay Jones in the lineup. That is going to be the case yet again today. I mean, Waddle is the better player. He's the more talented player. And he was on his way to a big game against New England in week 2 before he had to exit early due to injury. He had 4 for 86. So he was on his way to a big game. I think I give the slight nod to Kirk. Just riding the hot hand. I'll ride the hot hand with Christian Kirk. Stevenson's been better the past couple of weeks, but I prefer these wide receivers. Aaron Jones is a guy that I've always been a big fan of. I love Aaron Jones, but he hasn't been right since week 1, since he suffered that hamstring injury. So I think I need to see it first, or I need to see a little bit better of a performance before we move Aaron Jones back into the starting lineup. Rojo, that's a hell of a return. That's a hell of a return. The only issue with that is if you lose Hurts or Herbert, yeah, you wouldn't have a QB3 to turn to if Hurts or Herbert got hurt. I mean, can you grab like a veteran like for kind of cheap to hold it down as like a as a stopgap for this year? I don't know, like a Jimmy G shouldn't cost that much. That is a good collection of quarterbacks though, especially in dynasty. Really strong return though. That is a really good return. Let me think on that one. Oh, and you have the stacks. Yeah, I don't know if I want to. If you have Chase, I don't know if I want to break that stack up. That alone might be reason to just hold. It's a very good offer though, in a vacuum. Start in full PPR, Najee, London, or Pitts. Najee has been a little bit better recently. Well, last week anyway. But he still was, I think he was under 4 yards per carry yet again. He just came through because he got some volume and he scored a touchdown. In full PPR, I don't love it, but I guess I'll go London. The Falcons are tough to trust on the road, but the Titans are a terrible secondary. And they just traded Kevin Byard, so they're going to be even worse. Since it's full PPR, I guess I'd go London. You have Herbert, Eckler, too. Rojo building some elite stacks over there. Man, maybe just keep what you got. Especially if you're over there, if you're sitting there thinking like, I got this whole league by the balls, then maybe just don't do anything to shake that up, you know? It's a good offer. It's not like it's a bad offer. I would tell the person like, "Hey, this is great. This is like a great offer. If I didn't have Chase, I would seriously consider this." But that's a stack for the next decade that I don't know if I want to necessarily break up. What's going on? He hate me. Good to see you, man. Pageant, Tyrod, B Rob, or Raishi Rice in Superflex. Raishi Rice is in the snow today. He's a little tough to trust. Brian Robinson. Jordan Davis is active for the Eagles, so that is a tough spot for Robinson. Tyrod gets the Jets. Didn't Tyrod have a decent day? Or he's been playing pretty good. Tough spot against the Bills. 200 passing yards. ran for 24 yards, ran for 25 yards last week, picked up 279 and 2 scores. Um, Tyrod? Just roll the dice with Tyrod? I would roll the dice. I think I would just roll the dice with Tyrod. He hate me. In SuperFlex, I'm always going to be more inclined to play the quarterback. Um, he can dump it off to Saquon. He has Darren Waller. Wan'Dale Robinson's been playing pretty good, and Tyrod will run. He's picked up 20. He's picked up 20 plus rushing yards the past 2 weeks. He will probably run around a little bit. I'll go Tyrod in Superflex. I'll go Tyrod. Choose 2 between Ayuk, Hollywood, DK. Ayuk and Metcalf, crumply heads. Ayuk has Purdy. Purdy clear concussion protocol, so he's going to play. So give me Ayuk, and I'll take Metcalf. He is the better player than Hollywood Brown. And he's back. Zach Moss is active. No surprise, Raheem Mostert is active. It doesn't look like Jerome Ford was given an active or inactive status just yet. So Kareem Hunt, you can continue to fire up with decent flex confidence. But Zach Moss is officially active. I would think he is in some type of reserve role in a bigger way than he had been in previous weeks. Late add to the injury report, and Taylor continues to get up to speed. I don't know how I feel about Moss today, but Taylor, wheels up. We're all the way back, baby. Who was here for the offseason when I told everybody make sure to get Jonathan Taylor, even if he was a second-round pick before the whole IR thing happened? Ayuk and DK, crumply heads. All right, let's see. Where are we at? I think we're at Ronnie. Tyler Algier, Zach Moss, Jeff Wilson, or Cam Akers. Man. I don't trust Moss being a late add to the injury report. Algier's in a brutal matchup against the Titans. I just don't know that Akers is there yet. I know he had a nice showing last week, but it was still in a committee, and he was the 1B in that committee, although it is a good matchup. I'll say Algier is a floor play, and Akers is a more of a boom bust play. I guess Akers is a little bit more of an upside play, if you can call it that. With these options, I'll say Akers is kind of an all or nothing play, but his floor is lower than Algier's. I'll say he's the upside play, and while it's a bad matchup by the numbers, the Titans are good at stopping the run. But Algier gets involved in that Falcons offense. They like giving him the ball, even though they have the best running back prospect since Saquon. They continue to insist on giving the ball to Tyler Algier in like a 50-50 split because Arthur Smith is a bozo. I'll say Algier is your safe play, and Akers is kind of like an all or nothing play, if that makes sense. Bourne, Ford, Palmer, Osborne, Foreman, or Demercado for the oh, sorry, I missed Zay Flowers or Puka. Man, it's too bad you can't start both of those guys and just sit all of those running backs. I really like the spot Flowers is in today. Puka's been incredible. I think Puka, they're both excellent options. It sucks that you can't play both of those guys. Flowers is a start for me, but I think Puka is like, I think you have to keep firing up Puka. Like 7 games into his NFL career, Puka Nacua looks unguardable. It's unbelievable what he's doing. I don't think you can take. I love Flowers and I love the spot. I just don't think you can take Puka out of your lineup. I just don't think you can take Puka out of your lineup. I think it's got to be Puka. Okay, now Bourne, Ford, Palmer, Osborne, Foreman, or Demercado. I would like the spot that Palmer is in, but he's a game time decision. And so I don't know that that's necessarily something I want to mess around with. Like, I don't want to pivot to Donta Foreman in the event that Palmer can't go. I will say this. An active Palmer would be the best option here. If we knew definitively that Palmer was playing, the answer would be Palmer. The problem is he's a game time decision and he might not go tonight. I guess I would put Palmer in there. And if he can't play, at least you can pivot to Foreman. I don't love it, but I think of these options, Palmer is worth waiting on to see if he's able to play. If he's active, then Palmer's your guy. If he can't go, at least Foreman is in that game, so you can swerve to Foreman. I'd probably just do that. I like Bourne's spot today, but if Palmer's able to go, he's the guy I want to play. And while it's not like my favorite pivot, you do have Foreman that you can pivot to in the event that Palmer can't play. I would do that. Put Palmer in your flex. Always, always, always put your Sunday night, Monday night, whoever's playing late for you, put those guys in your flex, and then that maximizes your flexibility to make changes before the week is fully over. Put Palmer in your flex. If Palmer can't play, you can swap him out for Foreman. Let's see. PPR, Javonte, Pierce, or Tank Dell in the flex. I'll go Javonte. I think it was Rojo who had or somebody else had this question earlier, like Pierce versus Javonte. Yeah, it was. I'm going Javonte. It's close, slight, it's a very slight edge. This is not like a definitive answer for me. Pierce is in the much better matchup, but Javonte is the better player. And he's been looking a lot better over the past couple of weeks. He had a touchdown called back last week on a holding penalty that would not have prevented him from scoring. And it's going to snow in Denver, so he's going to get the rock. Pierce is in the better matchup, but it sounds like the coaching staff wants to get Devin Singletary involved. They like him better. They like his skill set better for what they want to do in the backfield. Pierce isn't as much of a fit for their scheme. And so that doesn't mean that they're going to take him out. That doesn't mean that they're not going to keep riding Pierce. They're going to keep giving him the ball, and it's a great matchup, so he should be fine. It's close. It's close between those two, but I'll give the slight nod to Javonte. If there's one weakness of the Chiefs' defense, they can be run on a little bit. And Javonte averaged 5 yards a carry against them in a matchup earlier this year. Now they're at home, and it's expected to snow a lot. I give the slight nod to Javonte. Slight nod to Javonte. Miles Sanders, Roshan, or Devin Singletary. It is a good morning, Armando. Hope you're having a good morning as well. Hope we're all having a good day. We're going to get some dubs today. What do you say? Let's get some wins. What do you say? Sanders, who I have not been I just am not a Miles Sanders guy. It's a good matchup against Houston, but also it sounds like Chuba Hubbard is going to get more involved. Roshan is back from his concussion. There's some built-in risk with him because we don't know if Foreman is going to get the first crack at opportunities or if Roshan's going to get first crack at opportunities. And the Bears might be trailing in this game, which means they abandon the run eventually and they just start throwing it with Badgett. As for Singletary, he remains he's the clear 1B, even though it sounds like the coaching staff wants to get him more involved. There's a lot of risk with all of these guys. Sanders has the best matchup, but he has not been good this year. And Singletary's in a great matchup, but he is still the backup. When Roshan was healthy, I think it's risky. It's really risky with those three names, but I think I'm gonna go Roshan. There's a lot of built-in risk with his first game back from the concussion, but all things equal, when healthy, Roshan was ahead of Donta Foreman on the depth chart. I think I give the slight nod to Roshan. I don't have a ton of confidence in that, to be completely honest, but I just am not a Miles Sanders guy. And while Singletary is a very intriguing dude who should probably be rostered in as many leagues as where you could possibly get him added, he's still the 1B. I think Roshan is the 1A. So I'll say Roshan, but I admit there is some risk with him. There's some risk with all three of these dudes. I'll say Roshan. Rojo, we talked through your trade. I guess ultimately I don't think I would do it, even though it's a really good offer. You've got the Burrow Chase stack in a dynasty league. You would need to give me your firstborn to consider giving that up. I don't know that I necessarily want that. Nothing personal, no offense, but I don't think I want to break up the Burrow Chase stack. I got He Hate Me. I got Crumply Heads. I think we're at Jackson, Pierce, Donta Foreman, Jeff Wilson, or Madison. I would go Madison here. The Packers can be run on. There's nothing scary about that matchup. The Packers are giving up a lot of scrimmage yards to opposing running backs. It's close with Madison and Pierce. They're both in good matchups. And they're both trying currently to fend off the backup. Pierce is trying to fend off Devin Singletary, and Madison is trying to fend off Cam Akers. Trying to think. I guess I think Akers is the better player than Devin Singletary as far as like which backup is more likely to usurp the starter. It could be either one of these guys. I think I give the slight nod to Madison. Just be aware, with guys like Dameon Pierce and guys like Alexander Madison, both guys are fending off the backup running back for opportunities. It's anyone's guess who is more successful doing that. I give the slight nod to Madison. The Packers are giving up a lot of scrimmage yards to opposing running backs. The Panthers are as well. I'll give the slight nod to Madison. I'm gonna be furious if I see Cam Akers get the first touch today. Go with making the call for Madison. Yeah, I don't know. I guess Akers wasn't exactly great on Monday. He had that 130-yard catch and run that was really impressive, but I think he got 10 carries and he had 10 carries and he picked up like 30 yards with them. What did Singletary do in week 6 before the bye week for the Texans? He had 12 carries for 58 yards against New Orleans. Pierce had 13. Monday night, Madison had 8 carries and 2 catches, so he had 10 touches. Akers had 12 touches. So Akers actually out-touched Madison on Monday night against the 49ers. God damn it, this is such a mess. All right. I know I said Madison initially. This is gonna it's like a seesaw. We're gonna be going back and forth with this. Maybe Pierce is a little bit safer after all. At least he continued to it was not by much, but he did out-touch Devin Singletary before the bye week last week. Or no, they were tied, actually. Singletary had a catch. So that put him up to 13 touches. Oof. I guess I'll take the guy in the great. This is a great matchup. I'm going back and forth. I think I'm now thinking I'm talking myself into Pierce instead of Madison. Madison was actually out-touched by Cam Akers last week. At least Pierce split the work right down the middle with Devin Singletary in week 6 before their bye week. So I guess I'll give the slight nod to Pierce instead of Madison. Sorry, I was kind of back and forth on that one, but it's tough. They're both in situations where the backup is getting very involved. As it turns out, Akers out-touched Madison by a couple of opportunities last week. So I'll go Pierce instead. Sorry about that. I needed to talk myself through that. Pierce, slight nod to Pierce. If Roschon wasn't back, I'd suggest Foreman, but Roschon is back, so I don't think he can be considered. And I can't do Jeff Wilson yet. Trade Thielen and Najee for Eckler? Yeah. Without knowing the rest of your team, Tony, yes. I would be looking to acquire Austin Eckler. Go take a look at Austin Eckler's schedule for the rest of the season. It's like pretty smooth sailing. There's a lot of favorable matchups on Austin Eckler's schedule rest of year. If anybody's panicking about Austin Eckler in your league and you could use a running back and you have a couple of good pieces to pull the trigger, might be something worth looking into. Without knowing your other pieces, Tony, yes. My answer is yes. I would to acquire Eckler. Let's be clear. To acquire Eckler, yes. Let's see. No Deebo Samuel. Only options are Wandale, Mecole, and is that Craig Reynolds or Josh Reynolds? I guess it doesn't matter. I guess I lean Wandale here. I guess I lean Wandale here. He didn't have a great game last week. He only caught one ball for 22 yards, but he had 8 for 62 the week prior, and he had 5. And he's got at least 4 catches in every game but one so far, and he's got 5 catches or more in 3 of 5 games. I don't trust Mecole Hardman returning to the Chiefs in the snow. I need to wait on Mecole, and then if it's Josh Reynolds, that's a little more enticing. But if it's Craig Reynolds, then no, it is Josh Reynolds. Mm. He's in a dome against the Raiders. There's nothing really scary about that. Meanwhile, Wandale will see. I guess he'll see the Giants slot or the Jets slot corner. So that's not as scary as Sauce Gardner and DJ Reed. Man, Reynolds is a little dicey because obviously with Jameson Williams being back. But he has cleared 50 yards receiving in 3 of his past 4 games. And those games included Jameson Williams being back. I guess I'd roll the dice on Josh Reynolds. He's in a dome against the Raiders. Nothing scary about that matchup. It's a bounce back for the Lions. I'll take Josh Reynolds. Yeah, I'll take Josh Reynolds. Ronnie, you're welcome. No problem. Brian Robinson or Roschon in full PPR. Robinson is in a brutal matchup against the Eagles, and Jordan Davis is active. So that's a tough spot. Roschon is back from the concussion. When healthy, he was ahead of Donta Foreman on the depth chart. What we don't know is what are the Bears going to do? Are they going to like say nice job last week, Donta, you're the starter this week? But it's going to be a committee, and we're going to ride the hot hand if it gets to that point. Or are they going to just automatically insert Roschon back as the guy at the top of the depth chart between him and Donta Foreman? Whereas there are no questions that Brian Robinson is his team starter, but it is a tough matchup against the Eagles. I think I lean Roschon. Believe it or not, actually, it's not Antonio Gibson, who I was dead wrong about Antonio Gibson, as it turns out, not just this year, but several years running. I thought he would be more of a playmaker for them. I mean, it's Chris Rodriguez is getting involved in that backfield. And Gibson runs more routes than Brian Robinson, for whatever that's worth. I'll say Roschon. Both have plenty of risk, but I'll say Roschon. And between Stafford, Dobbs, Sam Howell, Bryce Young, probably Stafford. He's throwing the ball very well right now, and at least he has 2 studs in Kupp and Puka to throw the ball to. Al played pretty well against the Eagles in the last matchup in week 4, but he was bad last week, and he's continuing. He's getting sacked at a crazy rate, and the Eagles are good at sacking the quarterback. I'll give the slight nod to Stafford there. And then Dobbs against the Ravens, that's a tough sell. I'll go Stafford. And if you have to, you have to pick one of those dudes up off waivers, just play Stafford. If you have Stafford and you got to drop somebody, I guess it would be Stafford for one of those guys. Just play Stafford. What's going on, Iron? Good to see you, man. I I don't know that I would play Ridley over Downs. Downs has been really good the past few weeks. I like guys like Hollywood over Downs today. Um, I like Ridley's spot. I do like Ridley's spot today. I think he's in a good spot to bounce back. The Steelers are giving up a lot of outside production to opposing or to a lot of production to outside wide receivers. Ridley plays on the perimeter. He plays on the outside. Um, I kind of like that as a sneaky bounce back spot for Calvin Ridley. I might give the slight nod to Ridley. I really like Tank Dell, but I feel like in every question, him, Tank or this guy or this guy, I keep finding myself not suggesting Tank. I like Tank in a good matchup today, but there's a lot of other good names as options. I feel like I'm going back and forth between guys like Ridley and Downs. Downs is a floor play. Ridley is all or nothing. Downs is the safe play, I would say. Downs is safe. Ridley is upside. If you need to swing for the fences, given your matchup, your situation, how you feel depends on how aggressive you think you need to be going into your matchup. I'll say if you think you can play it safe, then Downs. If you think you need to be aggressive and go for the big shot, then I would go Ridley. He hate me. Who are your other quarterback options? If it's super flex, I don't think I'm dropping Watson. If you can find a way to grab Badgett, then sure, fine. Um, but it sounds like Watson's not going to go on IR. We probably just need to wait a couple more weeks on him. I would not drop him. I know it's frustrating. He's a roster clogger at the moment, but in Superflex, I think you need to hang on to him. You have Dak. Hang on to Watson. Hang on to Watson. He's a roster clogger for now, for sure, but we're not expecting him to go on IR. He should be okay in the next couple of weeks. So, like, let's say by week 10, hopefully not. Hopefully not until week 11, but week 10, 11. Let's hang on to him. Let's hang on to him in Superflex. If it was one quarterback, you can drop Deshaun Watson, but in Superflex, I think you need to hang on to him. Bro, appreciate the kind words, bro. Just offering some 2 cents here and there. So appreciate y'all coming in, hanging out, thinking enough of me to get some 2 cents on your situation. I hope I can steer y'all in the right direction. I know that's not going to be the case 100% of the time. Um, there are a lot of situations where I'm like, if I know in the back of my head as the games are going on that I steered people in the wrong direction on a call, I'm like not enjoying myself, even if my own team is doing well. Um, Hopefully it happens for the better more often than not, but appreciate it. All right, where are we at? I got one K William. I would go Roshan and I would go Stafford. How do I think Demercado will do today? I mean, I don't feel good. Not against the Ravens. I don't feel great against him. He's an RB5, RB maybe an RB4. Had a decent showing last week. 13 for 58. That's pretty good. And 4 catches for 17 yards. That's also good. The volume could certainly be there for him. I don't think Keontae Ingram is nothing personal to Keontae Ingram. I just don't think he's much of anything. So Demercado should see the volume, even though it was Ingram in week 6 when we all thought it would be Demercado. It was Ingram who got 12 touches. He did very little. He got 12 touches. He turned it into 51 yards of offense. Like, blah. Meanwhile, Demercado got 17 touches last week and turned it into 75 yards of offense. That's better. That's just better on a per touch basis and in overall production. He could come through with a decent RB3 floor play, but against the Ravens, where we expect game script to be favoring the passing game for the Cardinals, we just expect the Ravens to have a lead, working with a lead against an inferior opponent. I'm not crazy about his chances today. Pickett, Ritter, or Bryce Young. Ritter's on the road, so I don't trust that for 1 second. Pickett is at home. It is raining, but if you check the forecast in Pittsburgh, it looks like it's going to be raining a decent amount at kickoff, but the storm is going to be moving out of the area as the game goes on. I think by the second half, if the predictions are accurate, there's not going to be any rain in the forecast for the second half of that game, and maybe even sooner than that. Maybe by the second quarter, we don't have any issues with rain, according to the forecast. So I'm not too worried about that. And Bryce Young can't be considered yet. We just haven't seen, even he's coming out of his bye week, but we haven't seen anything yet to consider Bryce Young. I would go Pickett at home. They are home underdogs. The Steelers are. They're 2-point underdogs. That would indicate Pickett's going to be throwing the ball. He's going to be throwing the ball to Deontay Johnson and George Pickens. It's a good matchup for Ritter, at least from a throwing perspective, but on the road against a good run defense, I do not trust him. I'll say Pickett. As your quarterback. 2-point home dogs. Pickett's going to be throwing that football. I'll take Pickett. Mixon or Hunt in full PPR. I like Hunt this week, but I'm going Mixon. Give me the better player. Give me the volume, dude. Mixon is getting the most volume he has ever seen in his career. Coming out of the bye week, Bengals should be rested. They should be ready to go. It's not a scary number, actually. By the 49ers are giving up not crazy production, but decent production to opposing running backs. And Mixon doesn't come off the field. Kareem Hunt will cede work to Pierre Strong, and then we'll see about Jerome Ford. Have we received an update about Jerome Ford? Is he going to play? He intends to play. Yeah, all right. I'll take Mixon. Give me the better player. Start 2.5 PPR. Ayuk, Flowers, Downs, Rice, London. The first two. Start Ayuk. No Debo for the 49ers, and Purdy is in. He cleared concussion protocol. So we're firing up Ayuk, and I'm starting Zay Flowers. They're getting the Cardinals are getting killed by opposing wide receivers. Start those first two wide receivers. Ayuk and Flowers. Downs is in a good spot. London is in a good spot. I feel more confident about Ayuk and Flowers. I'm starting those first two wide receivers. Nico or Flowers, and appreciate the kind words, Ski. Thank you. I'm glad you feel that way. So I've had a couple other questions that I've had this same question a couple other times. I am in this same exact scenario where I have to choose between Nico Collins and Zay Flowers. I'm going Flowers. The matchup almost couldn't be better. Arizona is getting absolutely crushed by opposing wide receivers. I want to fire up Zay Flowers. It's not Odell Beckham for the Ravens. It's not Rashad Bateman for the Ravens. Their dude at wide receiver is Zay Flowers. And it's about as good a matchup as you can ask for going against Arizona. Give me Flowers. It's a great spot for Nico as well. I love Nico Collins. I love what he's done. And let's call a spade a spade. He could easily outperform Zay Flowers today, but I'm going to chase the matchup, and also Flowers has been good the past few weeks. Flowers over Nico. Start 2 between Swift, Pacheco, and Saquon. I hate that you have to sit one of these guys. You can't sit Saquon Barkley. You just can't sit Saquon Barkley. He has to be in. And I would say Pacheco. I think it's the best matchup on paper for opposing running backs. The Denver Broncos can't stop a nosebleed. They are brutal on defense. They are not good. It's in the snow. Apparently, Mahomes is feeling under the weather today. That was a late report today. Mahomes was added to the injury report with an illness. Take notes, Atlanta Falcons. That's the proper way to go about reporting things about your players. Mahomes was added to the injury report today with an illness. I guess he's a little under the weather. They might run the ball a little bit more. And why not? In the snow against a Swiss cheese defense, the Denver Broncos can't stop anybody. Saquon and Pacheco. Saquon and Pacheco. Pick one for the flex and full PPR. Hunt, Palmer, Dubs, Edwards. The best option here is Palmer. The problem is he's a game time decision on Sunday Night Football, and none of those dudes are those are all those other names are playing in the earlier slate, the earlier window. Is there anybody, Mark, if you're still in here, is there anybody on waivers? Probably not like a Donta Foreman. I can't imagine there's anybody viable, but like, is there anybody on waivers who is playing in the Sunday night game or the Monday night game between the Lions and the Raiders that you could pivot to in the event that Palmer can't play? The guy I want to wait for Palmer. I do. If not, I would go Gus Edwards I guess I would go Gus Edwards over Kareem Hunt in a really good matchup against Arizona. You could get Quentin Johnston. He's been so underwhelming to start his campaign. I just don't want you to get the Palmer is the guy I want to play. I just don't want you to get burned if he's ultimately ruled out. And I don't know that I trust Quentin Johnston as a pivot. I'll just paint the picture for you, Mark, and then you make the call. The safe play is Gus Edwards. If all things equal, if there were no injury designations, the best play here is Palmer. So if you want to play it safe, I would play Gus. If you want to be aggressive, or if you feel like you need to be aggressive, if you're an underdog in your matchup and you want to swing for the fences, then I would do that. I would play Palmer, put him in your or you could keep him in a wide receiver spot because you would be picking up Quentin Johnston. If you want to be aggressive, wait for Palmer, and if he's ruled out, at the very least, Quentin Johnston's going to have as great of an opportunity as he could have so far this year. It's a good matchup against the Bears. And he would have to be a starter by default with no Palmer, and then obviously with no Mike Williams. So if you want to play it safe, Edwards. But if you want to be aggressive, go Palmer. And if he's out, scoop Johnston. And if you want to go the route of playing Palmer, then grab Johnston sooner than later. Just to lock it in, so that there's no issues with anybody else trying to grab him for whatever reason. Hey, Steven, thank you so much for the Superman. That's very kind of you. Much appreciated. Deontay or Watson? Is that Christian Watson? I assume that's Christian Watson. It's not Deshaun Watson because his ass is out this week. I would go Deontay. Came back last week. First game back from injury. Put up 5 for 79. Watson's been a little up and down this year. He would be your aggressive ceiling play, but I think Deontay is a perfectly fine guy to just fire up regardless of floor versus ceiling. Especially if it's full PPR or at least half PPR. Steelers are 2-point underdogs at home today. They're going to be throwing. They're going to be aggressive. Deontay Johnson is the first read most frequently with Kenny Pickett. Pickens had the better day last week from a yardage perspective, but now Deontay got a game under his belt after coming back from injury. Second game back. They're at home. And they are home underdogs. They're going to throw. Pickett's going to be throwing that football. They got to respect the Jacksonville offense and stay aggressive, keep pace. I think I would just go with Deontay Johnson. He's a threat for 7 to 8 catches any given week, and especially at home, I would think he can hit that number, around 7 or 8 catches, especially with a game now under his belt. Last week. 5 for 79 is a nice showing after coming back from a 4-week absence. I would go Deontay. The Packers just don't look good on offense. Steelers are not great on offense, but I think right now they're better than the Packers. I would fire up Deontay. I would fire up Deontay. That's where I would go. Appreciate the Superman. Thank you so much. Okay, I got to Mark's question. Matt's turn. Should you play Goddard or Christian Watson in your flex? Oof. Just as I got done talking about how the Packers offense is like not good right now. I would go Goddard. He's come on strong the past couple of weeks. Washington, the past 3 or 4 weeks, is giving up lots of production to opposing tight ends. And you figure Hurts is a little banged up. The knee, and he's coming into this to this game. He's going to be wearing a brace on that knee. Figure short throws a little bit more frequently for the Eagles. Some short throws, get the ball out quick, get the ball out of Jalen Hurts' hand a little bit quicker. That's the tight end. That's the big target. That's Goddard, and he's been more involved and playing better the past few weeks. I'll say Goddard. Watson is an aggressive ceiling play with a floor, with a very low floor. I'll put it that way. And the Packers offense just does not look good right now. I'll say Goddard. Should you drop Michael Thomas or Palmer for Tank Dell? I would not drop Palmer. Even though he's a game time decision tonight and he might not play, I would not drop Palmer. Mike Williams is not coming back. He's gone for the year. He's not coming back. So I would not drop Palmer. I don't think I can bring myself to drop Michael Thomas either. I think you just hang on to both of those guys. I think you just hang on to Palmer and Michael Thomas. Thomas has been solid this year. He's been a volume-based floor play. There's value there. I like Tank Dell. I like Tank Dell quite a bit. It's tough to see him still on waivers. He should probably not be on waivers, but not for those two guys. Not for those two guys. I think you got to keep Thomas. You got to keep Palmer. You got to especially keep Palmer. With no Mike Williams rest of the year, Quentin Johnston's off to a slow start. I would keep both of those guys, and I would especially keep Palmer. All right, we're only a half hour away from the slate, so I'm going to try to rapid fire this a little bit. Appreciate everybody's patience. Appreciate everybody coming in and hanging out today. Let's get some dubs. Let's see. And thank you again, Rojo, for the kind words. I do what I can. I try. Burrow or Stroud? Slight nod to Stroud. It's close, but we don't know how healthy Burrow is even after coming out of the bye week, and it is a tough matchup against the 49ers on the road. They're neck and neck. Burrow's obviously the better talent, but Stroud has looked really good. Um, and maybe he's got a little extra motivation, Stroud does today, playing against Bryce Young, who was taken first overall instead of him. Maybe a little extra motivation for Stroud, who has been playing very well. They're close. They're real, real close, but I'll take the slight nod to Stroud just because Burrow is not 100% healthy, or at least right now we don't know. Carr or Russ? I'll take Carr. At least he's in a dome. He's been the on-field NFL quarterback play from Derek Carr has not been good, but the fantasy numbers have been okay. They've been decent, and he's been all right the past couple of weeks. He's in a dome. No concerns about weather. Russ is playing in the snow. Could make it a little bit tougher for him to throw the ball on a consistent basis. I'll take Carr. I'll take Carr. Iron, I got your question. I would say Downs is your floor play. Ridley is aggressive stealing play. I got my other members. If any of my members missed anything that I talked through with them, just let me know and I will follow up. But I think my members are good. We're down to J Will. Half PPR, Lockett or Christian Watson. Oh man, dude. Both of these guys have been disappointing so far. Lockett gets a tough matchup against the Browns. Watson has not a tough matchup against the Vikings, but the Packers offense just has not been very good recently, specifically Jordan Love. But like Lockett hasn't been that great this year either, outside of like 1 week. Lockett, slight nod to Lockett. It's not a good matchup against the Browns secondary, but you figure Denzel Ward will be on DK Metcalf, so that clears things up for Lockett a little bit. Um, he is on the injury report with a hamstring, so that is the only thing. But he is expected to play. But Lockett got a full practice in on Friday, so he should be fine. Slight nod to Lockett. Both are tough. Both are tough to trust right now. Both are tough to trust, but slight nod to Lockett. Laporta or Kittle? You got to go Kittle. Without Debo, Kittle historically does very well. They are very close. It's neck and neck. Both are great options, but you got to go Kittle. He's the more proven, more accomplished player, and without Debo, his usage goes up. And he's got Brock Purdy. Purdy passed concussion protocol. He's good to go. It's not Sam Darnold. It is the regular starter for the 49ers. I would go Kittle. It's close, but I would go Kittle. Dylan, Moss, Reynolds, Wilson. I guess Dylan. Moss was a late add to the injury report, so I don't necessarily trust that. Craig Reynolds, I don't trust him either. I think it's going to be they're going to get Jahmyr Gibbs they're going to give him as much work as he could possibly handle. And Jeff Wilson, we need to see something from Jeff Wilson first before we fire him up. I think you're going Dylan. Aaron Jones hasn't been right since that week 1 hamstring injury. And Dylan has a role even when Jones is fully healthy. I'll say Dylan. Sorry, Crumply Heads. I missed that. Singletary or Chuba. Both are in similar spots, right? Both are the 1B, but both are getting more involved. Singletary's in a great matchup. Hubbard is on the other side. It's nothing scary about the matchup against Houston. Hubbard got 20 total touches in week 6, but Miles Sanders is back. Singletary got 13 touches with Dameon Pierce getting a typical workload. It's a great matchup for Singletary. I'll say Singletary. It's just he's in the it's a much more favorable matchup, Crumbly Heads, for Singletary. The Panthers can be run on by anybody. I'll say Singletary. Chuba is tougher to trust with Miles Sanders back, which makes both of them really difficult to trust. Of course, the Eckler owner's having second thoughts. Well, if you can throw in like the last dude on your bench to entice him, then might be worth trying to get it done if you can. If you can. Mark, you're welcome. Sounds like you got a plan of attack. Hopefully Josh Palmer plays tonight. Flex 1, pull PPR. Amari Cooper, Michael Thomas, Rashee Rice. Thomas has no weather concerns. Amari Cooper's playing with a backup quarterback. And we've seen Jekyll and Hyde with PJ Walker to Amari Cooper. Thomas is going to see Kenny Moore today. That's a tough matchup. Or actually, that's probably Olave. Olave is going to see Kenny Moore. So it's a little bit better. It's a little bit more favorable for Michael Thomas. Cooper is a boom bust wide receiver 3. Thomas is probably a wide receiver 3 as well, but his floor is safer. So it depends on how aggressive you want to be. In theory, Rashee Rice is a decent option, but the snow gives me a little bit of pause. And the fact that Mahomes is on the injury report now, he's apparently feeling a little under the weather, even though he's going to play. Gives me a little bit of pause with Rice. I would say, depending on if you want to play it safe, Michael Thomas. But if you want to be aggressive and run the risk of a very low floor, then Amari Cooper. Cooper could give you 100 yards because he did that in week 6 with PJ Walker. But he could also go under 20 yards. I think he had like 22 yards receiving last week with PJ Walker. So Michael Thomas is a floor play. Amari Cooper is an upside play, but his floor is lower. It depends on how aggressive you want to be. Hopefully that helps. Nice job playing Kincaid, Matt. But yeah, I'm okay with the double tight end in this situation. Yeah, Goddard's fine to fire up. Flex 1 between Mixon, Nico, Christian Watson, or Downs. Seahawks over the Falcons. They're at home. The Falcons are in a great spot because they're going to play Will Levis, but they're on the road. So it's a little tougher. The Seahawks defense is playing pretty well right now, and they're at home against a backup quarterback. And that's the difference for me. So I'll play the Seahawks defense. As far as Mixon versus it's either Mixon or Nico Collins. And I think I lean Mixon. Despite the tough matchup against the 49ers, Mixon is a bell cow in a way that he hasn't been in years past. He's getting the most volume of his career. You figure he's going to see 15 to 20 opportunities, and he's getting all of the red zone work out of the backfield for the Bengals. I would go Mixon. With the team coming out of their bye week, they're going to get him involved. They're going to continue to utilize him. It's a tough matchup on paper, but the 49ers are giving up some production to opposing running backs. So I'll take Mixon. It's close with Nico. And if it's full PPR and you want to go the wide receiver, I understand, but I would go the bell cow running back. I would go Mixon. Dylan or Roshan? There's risk with both. I think Roshan is closer to being a starter than Dylan is. So with both being risky plays, I'll give the slight nod to the guy who I think has a better chance of being the starter, and that's Roshan. Full PPR pick 2, Metcalf, Flowers, Pickens. All three are good options. All three are really good options. I would go Metcalf and Flowers. Flowers is in a beautiful matchup against the Arizona Cardinals, and he's been playing well the past couple of weeks. Metcalf, I think, is your best player here, and he is definitively his team's wide receiver 1. It's a tough matchup against Denzel Ward, but he is at home, so that's an equalizer. Pickens is in a good spot too, but with Deontay back, that is the difference for me of these three guys. And so I say the first two. I go DK and Flowers. Flex between Najee and Hopkins. I don't love it. I don't love either one. But I would lean Najee because at least he'll get some volume. Hopkins is impossible to trust today. He's going to be catching passes from Will Levis. That's about as gross as it gets. Najee has been so uninspiring this year, but he is still getting the ball. He's still getting some volume, so I'll take Najee. Nico and Downs, crumply heads. Nico and Downs. Nico's the best option here, I would say. Lockett's been underwhelming. Cooper is unpredictable with PJ Walker. And Downs has been solid the past couple of weeks. I'll say those first two, Nico and Downs. What's going on, Theo? Good to see you, man. Sit 3. DJ, DK, Nico, CD, Cooper, Ridley, Hollywood. Sit Amari Cooper. I guess sit Calvin Ridley. DJ Moore, DK Metcalf, Nico Collins, CD Lamb. I think those are the 4 you have to play. I don't want to sit Hollywood. I like the spot he's in, and it's a revenge game against the Ravens. So I like his opportunity today, but you've got some really good pieces to work with. Those first 4 names, I think that's where I'm going. I would play those first 4. I would sit those last 3. I would sit Cooper, Ridley, Hollywood. Really good options. Really good options. Let's see. Who to flex between Aaron Jones, Christian Watson, Foreman, Royce Freeman, or Josh Palmer? In standard scoring. Jones. Aaron Jones. He's been tough to trust, but also he's been removed from the injury report, so maybe he's healthy now. And the Packers need to find a way to get going on offense. Aaron Jones is their best overall player still, even as a 28-year-old running back. You got to think he gets his 15 touches today in a must-win division game for the Packers. And since it's standard scoring, that's a slight bump for the running backs. I would want to say Palmer. But because he's a game time decision, we don't know if he's going to play. You have a viable starting running back in Aaron Jones to just fire up. I'll say Aaron Jones. He hasn't been himself this year since that hamstring injury week 1, but he's been removed from the injury report, so that could be a sign that maybe he's healthy now. I'll say Aaron Jones. What's going on, Jay? Good to see you, man. Pittman, Olave, Collins, or Smith. If you can only start one of these guys, I mean, Olave is the guy I like the most here. Olave is the guy I think I like the most, and I think this is a good spot for him to bounce back. They're all in the same range. They're all in the same range of outcomes. I think I lean Olave. This is a good spot for him. checking on the write-up. Yeah, 10 plus targets for Olave in 5 games this year, 5 out of 7. Figure this is a course correct week for the Saints. Remember, Derek Carr was yelling at Chris Olave last week for running the wrong, even though it wasn't Olave's fault, as it turns out. You figure maybe they course corrected that this. I'll say Olave. I think he's the best player here of those guys, and he's getting the volume. He's getting 10 to 12 targets a game this year. I'll take Olave. I'll take Olave. Olave of those options. Pittman's going to see Lattimore. Devontae Smith has been quiet the past few weeks, although he does typically play well against Washington. He's been quiet. And then I like the spot Nico is in today, but Olave is the better player, so I'm just going to go with Olave. Mahomes or Kirk Cousins? I know that Mahomes is playing in the snow today, and apparently he's a little under the weather with an illness, but he's gonna play. You have to play Patrick Mahomes. You have to play Patrick Mahomes. I don't care if Kirk Cousins is playing a college defense and Mahomes is playing on the moon with no gravity. You have to play Patrick Mahomes. You have to fire up Patrick Mahomes. You just have to. You just have to. You got to play Mahomes. He has earned that. He has earned that level of confidence no matter what the scenario is. You have to play Mahomes. And Pierre does. I'm a fan of Aaron Jones. I think he's healthy as he has been since week 1 in standard scoring. I think he's your best option here. I think he's your best option. I think I got everybody. That brings us to the end of the chat with about 10 minutes to go before kickoff. So I gotta bounce and make sure that my lineups are all set. Appreciate y'all coming in and hanging out today and asking questions. Appreciate the engagement. Thank you to my members. Thank you, Steven, for the super. Let's get these wins today. I will be back on Tuesday, 6 p.m. Eastern for waiver wire help ahead of week 9. So be sure to tune in. Other than that, thank you again, guys, for the time. Let's have a good week 8. Thanks, everybody. Best of luck.